Week 4 is underway with the Mammoth Rice-Charlotte matchup. I am honored, I am privileged, I am shocked that any of you would divert your attention away from the Charlotte-Rice matchup to listen to me. But we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Best analysis, discussion, breakdown, all of that right here because of your contributions, of course. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We have left the call-in line, and we will get to our first caller here in just a second. Keep in mind that I will stay here all night if you would like me to be here all night. If I interact with you for an hour, that's guaranteed. We will be here for an hour. And then you will force me to decide what I do with the rest of my evening, which could be enjoy myself or could be work. I don't know, or it could be both. Hopefully you're having a good night yourself. And again, riveted by the Rice-Charlotte matchup. I don't know what the score is. We'll check out the score because that's what we do. On Friday, we've got, I believe, 2 games going on Friday. And I myself am looking forward to watching Iowa take on Rutgers on Fox on Friday night. You can get my picks. 37-21 against the spread. I repeat, 37-21 against the spread. And 61-15 straight up. Is that the number? Yeah, where did that number go? There it is, 61-15 straight up, 37-21 against the spread. That's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. All right, you get my picks. Steve Dace, Corey Brada, and Matt Zemek as well. Also, Steve Merrill, Wager Talk with his Under the Radar selection, which I got to text him about. Under the Radar selection from Steve Merrill. He's 30-13 against the spread. Kind of puts my 37-21 to shame. But that's spread over 3 years. Okay. And he gets to select his one under the radar. I pick all the top 25 games against the spread, and we still hit on 65%. All right, folks, so we do appreciate that. And we've given you another opportunity to partake in our picks. You do not have to be a YouTube or Patreon premium member. You can lock in on the picks per week. You can do that if you'd like. So go to patreon.com. You'll see what I mean. And you can just lock in on all the picks. There's about 65 predictions there between myself, Corey Brada, Matt Zemek, Steve Dace, and the Under the Radar selection from Steve Merrill of Wager Talk. And you can do that right there. The audio from this show and all the shows here at the Voice of College Football and all the team channels are on your favorite audio platform. That's Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and the like. Let's hit the phones. We got Michael Hogue on the line. Michael, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. Good evening, sir. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Forget you had me nervous until yesterday.
Nervous
because normally you do the top 25 that makes sense on Sundays, but I seen you came out with it yesterday.
Well, Michael, it does my heart good that you are looking for it and waiting for it, and I have to admit that I lost a little incentive this week to do it, and
hope everything's all right with you.
No, everything's fine. Everything's fine for the most part. As you know, you are in the midst of your own struggles in life, so we all have our various struggles. But just had other things going on and kept putting it off, and a lot less people watch it than used to watch it. So that gives me less incentive to do it.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Have you thought about maybe, you know how they do the honorable mentions too, or the receiving votes and the actual polls?
Yes.
Have you ever thought about maybe adding maybe 5 teams to who's the honorable mention? Because I think you did that a few times last year too.
Yeah, I mentioned what teams I was considering.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference between taking a poll and doing rankings. I'm one person doing my rankings. None of those individuals that do the AP poll or the coaches poll vote for any more than 25 teams.
Mm-hmm.
So they all just have 25 teams. It's just that
Yeah.
they disagree, obviously. So there are other teams receiving votes.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do, if it paid off, if it was something that people enjoyed enough to partake in, I would want to rank. I think every team in the country should be ranked. I don't think it
Yeah.
should stop at 25. I don't think there's anything magical about 25 that makes 25 that much better than 26 or 27 or 28 or 29 or 35 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove home that point a couple times and people didn't get it. Some people got it and they understood the joke. Other
Yeah.
people didn't get it and didn't understand the joke and thought I was just losing my mind. A few years ago, one week I did like the top 37. Just picked a number. Just
Yeah.
did 37. And another week I did 21 or something. Just to prove the
Mm-hmm.
point that there's nothing magical about the number 25. It's completely arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
Completely. It's just an
Yep.
arbitrary number.
Yep. Anyway, I get a couple questions. So what's your schedule for this week? Your viewing schedule for this weekend?
All right. Love to talk about the viewing schedule. So let's pull it up right here and see what we got.
While you look it up, Mark, is Notre Dame's defense really that good this year?
According to what we saw the first two games of the season, I would say no, because even though they did not give up a ton of points against Miami, they got pushed up and down the field. Their defensive front hasn't had that poor a game in a long time. So Miami's offensive line, which could be the best in college football, pushed them around. And then the Texas A&M game, they got gashed for a lot of plays downfield. So I thought this was going to be a top 5 to 10 defense in the country, and it's not playing like it.
Okay. Now, do you think the 25.5 about what you think, or do you think that's too much for the game Saturday with Purdue?
Well, I think if USC won by 16?
Yeah.
And I got to go back and look at the highlights of that game. I'm curious to see. Like the extended highlights. I don't like seeing like 3 or 4 highlights. I like to watch like 20 minutes of highlights. And the game's at Notre Dame.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that you got to take that into consideration. What the spread would have been if Purdue was playing in Los Angeles against USC. I got to think would not have been, what was it, 21?
Yeah.
Something like that, 2021. I got to think it would have popped up to 26, 27. So they're giving USC and Notre Dame about the same level of quality evaluation. So I think that's fair.
Okay. Now, do you think it's going to be like it was last year after Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, where
No.
and they just shot them 66-7?
No. I think that we can already get indication from these first 3 games that Purdue is a much improved team.
Just is wondering stuff like that. I think it'll be like that, but if somehow Purdue was to shock the world and win for the first time up in South Bend since 2004, what's that going to say about people up in South Bend? What do you think the conversation is going to be like?
Oh my goodness! If they go to 0-3 with a loss to Purdue, well, I would say that it would be one of the few places in the country that has extremely high standards that would not be talking about firing its coach, because he's such a young coach. He's off to a great start. He just lifted this program that has not, of course, Brian Kelly did a nice job, but, he broke a lot of barriers down last year in winning playoff games, beating top 5 and top 10 opponents. That just because they go to 0-3, they're going to mail in their season. I don't know if the team is, but the fans will mail in the season and be looking ahead to 2026. But it would be a much different feel than a lot of other big programs if they went 0-3. If USC was 0-3, if Oklahoma was 0-3, if they'd be riding their coaches out of town,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other places.
Yeah. All right. A couple other quick. I see you got the games pulled up for Saturday.
Yes.
Let you look good. I didn't know what you was picking as far as your games and stuff like that. So.
All right. So I do very much look forward to this Iowa Rutgers game. I may be one of the few, but I'm looking forward to watching that wire to wire. Saturday, my 2 games at noon are for sure Texas Tech and Utah. I'm watching that game. I think it's
where's that at?
It's in Utah.
Okay.
And I think that that's a key game in the Big 12. I think that is going to be the most important game in the Big 12 to date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second game I'm going to put on my TV screens would be SMU and TCU.
Okay.
But I'm going to have Arkansas, Memphis, which consider that Memphis is one of those teams that are in the running from the group of 5 for a playoff spot. And Syracuse and Clemson, that would be my number 4 game.
Okay. Speaking of Virginia Tech, I see down there who they get as their interim coach.
That's a great question. I looked at that up. It might have been too soon after that happened, and I did not get my answer. Philip Montgomery. So Philip Montgomery is the former Tulsa head coach.
Okay.
So he should know what to do.
Mm-hmm. No. Okay. I didn't mean to make you lose your train of thought. If I did, I apologize. But
yeah,
just looking at the games and stuff like that.
That's something we should all know.
Who did Army have?
Army is playing North Texas. That's an interesting game.
Yeah, could be.
North Texas just demolished Washington State, and they are a 1.5-point favorite on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's North Texas is a bit of a wild card for the college football playoff out of the group of 5.
What conference are they? Are they
North Texas is oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot. I'm mixing up the Conference USA, and I believe they're the Sun Belt.
Okay.
They're not. Oh, they made it. They may have elevated to the American. When the American lost all these teams, they did elevate a number of teams from the coming from somebody who is always known, who's in every conference.
They're in the American Conference.
I got to tell you, I've lost some track here. So yeah, the American Conference is Navy, Memphis, North Texas, Tulane, East Carolina, Rice, South Florida, Temple, Army, Charlotte, FAU, UTSA, UAB, and Tulsa. So
speaking of, go ahead.
I was just saying that you've got Charlotte, FAU, UTSA, North Texas that moved up when the others left.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of UTSA, is Larry Coker still the head coach?
At UTSA?
Yeah.
Is that who they hired after Jeff Traylor?
Or was it he was their first coach and
Larry
then he got
Coker
replaced?
At UTSA?
Wasn't he there when they started the program, I thought?
Well, that's a great question. Larry Coker at UTSA. Yeah, I don't keep track of
coaches.
Well, I don't keep track of group of 5 coaches very well. I almost can name every. Yeah, there he is. Good for you, Michael. UTSA, Larry Coker, 2011 to 15. Okay, so that's been a while. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. He has not coached since then.
Okay. Now back to your schedule, your viewing agenda for this weekend.
Yeah, I like these questions you're throwing at me because you're making me think about a lot of stuff that I've forgotten.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to quiz myself when the show's over about every coach in the country because I've always known every coach in the country, but I certainly don't right this second. All
Mm-hmm.
right. I know all the power conference coaches for sure, but in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the group of five. All right, at
Yeah.
3:30, I have no use for Oregon and Oregon State unless
No.
maybe if it's second quarter and it's a decent game, then I may get interested, but I don't think it's going to be a game. I have all due respect for that rivalry. I think it's a great rivalry, but just not this year.
Mm-hmm.
So 3:30 is easy for me. It's all about Michigan, Nebraska, 1, Auburn, Oklahoma, 2.
Okay.
Game, set, match. Those are the two by far that I want to see. And unless Purdue hangs with Notre Dame, I don't expect that. I expect, let's say we get into the second half and it's 27-10, something like that.
Okay.
I'm going to be more interested possibly in Tulane and Ole Miss if I
That
got to
could
go
be
to a
a
third
fun
game.
game. So who's your 3:30 game on Fox? I can't see
3:30
because of
game on
your
Fox.
picks.
It's North Carolina and UCF.
Nah. Pass on that one. James Madison Liberty looks like that might be a good game.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, not
Could
bad.
be a good game. Two of the premier group of fives in the past, at least. Troy and Buffalo could be a decent game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then we've got our prime time games. I don't think we have anything until then. West Virginia and Kansas. Obviously, the Mountaineers are coming off a big game, big win, and
Mm-hmm.
Kansas is a decent team. All right. In prime time, again, it's a very easy call for me to make to choose two games right there at the top of the board. Florida at Miami, Illinois at Indiana is the number one game.
Mm-hmm.
If I could only watch one game the entire day, I would have a difficult time choosing between Indiana, Illinois, and Nebraska, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would watch Illinois and Indiana.
Yeah. Are you surprised that IU's getting it? Are you surprised that IU's giving 6.5?
A little bit. Yeah, I am. Although we see that Xavier Scott, now I do not believe that this is impacting the line on the game, but Xavier Scott, one of the best cover corners in college football for Illinois, is probably not going to play
Mm,
in this game.
okay. Yep. I
So
was just wondering.
those two, although I do like this Arizona State Baylor game too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the most likely scenario that would get me off one of those two games would be Miami is blowing out Florida. So if that's
Yeah.
31-7 in the third quarter, then I'm going to go to Arizona State and Baylor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking. Why as you look, I don't know if you're gonna do nightcap games and stuff like that, but I'm thinking Purdue will end up going 2-2 and stuff like that. And I'd say they'll lose maybe like 38-21. But
Okay.
like I said last week, I was darn near close. I was almost spot on with my prediction last week because I did say USC 34-20. But no, I talked to you back in before the season started. I said it's gonna be 4-8 or 3-9 for Purdue. But I
Yep.
was taking it in 4 game segments at a time, and I said, and for them to be bowl eligible, they have to go 2-2 in each of the 4 game segments. Their next 4 games for Purdue, can they do the 2-2, or maybe go 3-1?
So you're saying they're going to lose to Notre Dame to go to 2-2,
Yes.
and then we're going to look at the next four games, which
Oh, and
are
I think you said you was interested in the USC Michigan State game Saturday night, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
I got a feeling that's gonna be a bloodbath.
Well, it could be. It could be. The fear that I have there is that I do think that the travel is a bit overrated, but it is still a factor. Going the 3 time zones is difficult for these teams. But I think of it more from the standpoint that Michigan State, they couldn't run the ball against Youngstown State.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden Childs had to carry the entire offense. And I don't know that that is the best place to be playing against the USC defense with DeAnton Lynn as the coordinator. It's a good defense, talented, athletic defense. And if you cannot run the ball at all, Michigan State couldn't run the ball last year. They were terrible. They've obviously not improved that. And that when you're one-dimensional and you make your quarterback have to do everything, that spells trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So Purdue goes down to Notre Dame to fall to 2-2. And then here we go with our next 4 games here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, 2 at home, 2 on the road. Yeah, that's possible. I don't think it's likely. I think if they win one of those games, then that's a decent stretch. But
because is Minnesota and Rutgers really that good?
Is Purdue that good?
They're a lot better than they are last year. Are they maybe around the bottom? I would say maybe right now, in my opinion, maybe the 13th best team in the conference. But that's just me. But I'm also
everyone's better than UCLA. But after that, I can't say that Purdue's better than anybody else yet.
Mm-hmm.
Until they beat someone or play close enough against a good team. Mm. But Minnesota and Rutgers were 7 and 8 win football teams last year, and that's pretty much what they do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 2-2 would be remarkable. If Purdue goes 2-2 in those 4 games, good for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, because in their last 4 games, I don't think they can go 2-2 though. With Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and IU.
I don't know if they can go 1-3.
Sure, but yeah, as you said before, you gotta let the season. You gotta let the season play out, though.
Well, that's one thing that will happen for sure. That the season is going to play out.
Yeah. All right, sir. I'm sure you got other callers on. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Michael.
All right.
Good to hear from you. Have a good night.
Have a good one. You too. Thanks, Mark. God bless.
Michael, exposing my lack of knowledge in the current Group of 5 situation. So I'd say up until about 2 years ago, when there were all these realignment changes, I always knew all my conferences and who played in every conference, every year of college football existence. But I got to say, I get tripped up with some of these moves that have taken place in the last couple of years. Like, where's Kennesaw State? Are they in Conference USA? I guess they are. But don't hold a gun to my head. I don't know for sure. Are they in the Sun Belt? They're either in the Sun Belt or they're Conference USA. So one quick glance through all that, and I can recommit it to memory. And then I am going to go through and the power conference coaches, that's never in doubt. Know all those. And if I didn't, I shouldn't be sitting here. But the Group of 5 coaches, yeah, I will grade myself and we'll see. Because I'm sure I've forgotten some of them. Super chat coming in. Adam would like for us to stay on tonight. Thank you so much for the contribution, Adam. Very fine work out of Adam and our buddy Gabe. So you can catch the Rutgers show, everyone. The Rutgers show, I'm going to put the link in the chat right this second for our fine Rutgers show. That's every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then these guys get together, of course, for some post-game analysis as well. So I don't know if that's going to be directly after the Iowa game or at another time. So I don't want to say for sure. But again, the Rutgers show, worth checking out with Adam and Gabe every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we have left the link in the chat for Rutgers Football Talk with Adam and Gabe. And Adam writes, Mark, what's your prediction for Rutgers, Iowa? Also, Penn State is a bye week, but Drew Aller will still find a way to throw an interception to someone on Saturday. Well, if I recall, we determined, what was that last year? It was at some time during the holidays, or maybe it was Thanksgiving afternoon, that while the family gets together, that Drew Aller would be throwing pick sixes against like his 15-year-old cousins. That's possible. So Adam, thank you so much for that. Should I give you a free Rutgers, Iowa prediction? I guess I was. I don't know if I was going to include that with my predictions. So we got a few fine folks that are paying their hard-earned money for my predictions. Mr. Christopher Foote should call in just because he's been taking shots at my rankings. I still don't believe he understands. Everyone who takes a shot at my predictions, or not my predictions, my rankings, I think one of two things is in play. One of three things maybe in play. They somewhat understand him, but it just irritates them. It irritates them because maybe their particular team wasn't ranked where they want them to be ranked. So you've got those people. You've got those people that praise my rankings when I rank their team higher than everybody else. And then they shoot down and criticize my rankings and say they're stupid when I rank their team lower than everyone else. Well, those people are just disingenuous, and they're just being moronic fans. And that's fine. And then you have the people that just, I think, get irritated by the whole process just because it's not what they are used to. So there are people in this life that they have shown no ability to adjust, to adapt. That's a very bad place to be in life when you're incapable of changing, adapting, being flexible, being able to adjust to different situations or different schools of thought, especially concerning something that has no moral connection to it. It's just simply a ranking system that is a different approach. So that just irritates some people because they're used to it's preseason and Ohio State's number 1 and Georgia's number 2 and Penn State's number 3 and Clemson's number 4. And unless something really drastically changes that, then you just keep those teams in their pole position, and that's what you do. And that's the way they grew up looking at rankings. So to say, oh, week 1, LSU beat Clemson, so let's elevate them significantly. Or for me, it's not even about elevation because there was no ranking to go by to begin with. Or what people get irritated with my rankings is the first few weeks, there are drastic changes. So if you think about this, let's use our brain. If you approach rankings like I do, where all that matters are the games that are played, then when you have one data point and then you go the next week from one data point to 2 data points, rankings can change drastically because that number 13 ranking for that particular team is only based on one data point. So you add an additional data point, that's 50% of the evaluation. So number 13 can go to number 2, or they can go to 22, or they can leave the rankings like that. That plays with people's systems in how they view rankings. If you're number 13, you're not going to move much. You're number 13. You get a really good win. Oh, put them up at number 9. Oh, they're number 13. They lost. Oh, just drop them to number 20. Well, no, if it's 50% of the evaluation and they just suffered a bad loss, well, number 13 can leave the rankings. They could go from number 13 to number 50. Now, it makes no sense if we're 10 games deep into the season, we have 10 data points, and there is just an 11th data point added, or 9% of the season or the evaluation, and there are wild fluctuations in the rankings. That is what doesn't make sense. But I truly believe that most people have the brain capacity to understand the rankings that I present. I just think that they don't have the flexibility of thought to, or they don't take the time to listen. It's a big problem in our society. People don't listen. They don't listen. Karen would like to see Virginia Tech on a ranking someday. Yeah, that is not going to be this season. It would take a miracle for that to happen. Someday, over the Hokie rainbow, it will happen. Charles, Todd Sullivan for president 2024. Were you on the ballot? Did we have CTS on the ballot in 2024? It's impressive. In honor of that AP voter, I have Florida at number 1. Yeah, that's would make about as much sense as what our Miss, whatever her name is, voted. Charles is asking, who does Mark have at number 1? Well, check out the rankings. I'll drop the link in the chat, and you can check out my top 25 that actually makes sense. Or you know what? It's just easier for you to just, it's the last video produced on the big channel here. What? Fong Wei is telling us that the FPI has Texas Tech number 1. Well, let's investigate. Where is the FPI? Where do they put that thing? Football Power Index. Okay, I didn't think that was the case. Okay, where is Texas Tech? They are not number 1. What are you doing to me, Fong Wei? I didn't think that was the case. Oregon is number 1 in the FPI. Ohio State number 2. This Alabama ranking at number 3 just confounds me. Explain that. Explain that. The rest of it, I have some slight issues with. Michigan is ranked higher than Oklahoma. The game wasn't close. I get, even though I don't agree with it, I get the thought process that if 2 teams play and it's a really close game, Say Miami and Notre Dame, walk-off field goal at Miami. That it could be argued, well, Miami won basically what would have been a tie game at a neutral site. Notre Dame would win at home. Therefore, throw that game out in terms of a evaluation of metrics and a Vegas evaluation. You could consider those teams to be even though Miami won the game on the field because they had the advantage of playing at home. I get that. I don't agree with it. I think the winner in any head-to-head matchup should be ranked ahead of the loser, unless the records, and you're going to see this later in the season, we're going to get to a situation with my rankings where I have to start breaking a couple rules. So rule number 1 is head-to-head. Head-to-head winner, the team that won the game, is always going to be ranked ahead of the team that lost the game. However, of course, we'll get to a point in the season where a 5-3 team beats a 7-1 team. So I'm not going to rank necessarily the 5-3 team above the 7-1 team just based on one result against each other. So head-to-head starts to break down a bit. Then the other is you come up with these round robin situations where you have to have somebody ranked ahead of somebody that they beat or ranked ahead of somebody that they lost to because Alabama beat South Carolina and South Carolina beat Ole Miss, but Ole Miss beat Alabama, kind of thing. Those things start to happen. Yeah, Michigan at number 10 in the country is ludicrous. Tennessee, they took Georgia to the wire. Their loss is an impressive loss. There are impressive losses. I am a firm believer that there are losses that are more impressive than wins. To me, Notre Dame going to Miami and losing on a walk-off field goal is more impressive than Kansas State beating South Dakota by a field goal. To me, that's not even comparable. Texas losing in Columbus by 1 score is more impressive than Oklahoma State beating Tennessee Martin by 3 touchdowns. It is a greater indicator of quality of team, quality of play, if you're able to play an elite team close rather than beating up or having a marginal win against a lousy team. What else do we have here? Again, Oklahoma's behind Michigan. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, I would not agree with it, but I would understand if Michigan had completely annihilated both of their other 2 opponents and Oklahoma had struggled against Temple and the other scrimmage that they had, but they did not. Notre Dame's at 14. Okay, Notre Dame's ranked ahead of Texas A&M. Okay. The head-to-head, I think, should be upheld. However, again, this is a formula that apparently needs to be tweaked. But Notre Dame, we know, lost that game in a certain capacity. They didn't necessarily get outplayed by Texas A&M. Nebraska, my goodness, I don't know what they've done to achieve a number 17 ranking in the country. LSU's at 19 and Nebraska's at 17. Let that sink in. Look at what those 2 schools have done. LSU has wins over Florida and Clemson. There is Texas Tech at 26. So I don't know how we got that misconstrued there in the chat. Texas Tech is number 26. Until further notice, Nebraska is not a good football team. They're an okay football team, but Nebraska has not beaten a good football team. We just looked at that last night. Nebraska has not defeated what I would consider a decent football team Colorado and Rutgers last year. Okay, I'll give them top 40 status. And then if you raise it to more like a top 25 team, they beat Minnesota. What did we have to go back to? 2017, they beat Minnesota. The last time they beat an arguably elite team was Michigan State in 2015. That went to the college football playoff as the Big Ten champion. But this current Nebraska team under Matt Rule is probably the best Nebraska team since 2016, maybe better than that. They better be better than they were last year. But man, I know Michigan's struggling. I know that there are some matchups that, you've got Nebraska at home. You've got Michigan without Sharon Moore. You've got a rookie freshman quarterback on the road in a hostile environment again. And you've got little threat of a downfield passing attack by Michigan. I don't know the status of Marvin Klein. I know he did not play against Oklahoma. I think he was back last week. So just in one game, that opener, he was Bryce Underwood's favorite target. But I believe that Michigan is a substantially better team than Nebraska. But Michigan plays in a way that will keep it close. And they've got a true freshman quarterback, and they're playing on the road. And Nebraska is going to be super hyped for this game. So you take all that into consideration, and I see a close game. But I believe over the course of a season, Michigan's a better football team, decidedly better than Nebraska. Until I'm proven wrong. Yes, Nebraska's they are going to have to show me a lot, and this would be a major step in that direction. If Nebraska goes out and beats Michigan, doesn't have to be convincing, can be 20-17. I will say that is a major win for this program, a major, colossal win. The biggest win, that would be the biggest win for this program, depending on what they do with it. If you just rank it in the moment, then it would be the best win that they've had since that 2015 Michigan State game. But if you rank it, and that team went 5-7, so it turned into nothing. It didn't amount to anything. But if they use this as momentum forward, and this is a catalyst to a big season, then this could be the biggest win that they've ever had in the Big Ten. Certainly since they went to the conference championship game their second season in the conference. The second Big Ten championship game. The second Big Ten championship game was Wisconsin, Nebraska. So whatever games that they won that led them to play in the Big Ten championship game that year, this would be the biggest win since then. This would be monumental. And no, they may not be defeating a stellar Michigan team, but still, in terms of name brand, in terms of maintaining an undefeated record, in terms of beating a quality team with talent that's better than theirs, this would be a huge win for Nebraska. But I'm not expecting it. I, for one, am not a believer in Nebraska football. I said this countless times during the offseason when people asked for predictions and asked for whether certain teams would break through. And I kept coming back to this point. If you want to be ahead of the curve, then you have to take some chances in making predictions, in making bold predictions. And you've got to try to envision the future and buck the trend, because there are ends to trends. There are turnarounds in the sport, but you've got to put your neck out there and see them. And I do that sometimes, but there are other times I don't. And I'm not going to do that with Nebraska. And let's not be surprised if they win this game against Michigan and they lose to the likes of whoever's on their schedule. It is the weakest schedule in the conference, but that they turn around and fumble it away against somebody marginal. So they're going to have to. This would be huge if they won this, but then they would have to continue forward. All right. Our buddy David's on the line. David, what's going on tonight?
Yeah, just a couple things, Mark. There, maybe you got into this week, but there was something that was bothering me from last week. I was watching some of the shorts, college football shorts, and then I watched a. Did you see the Brian Kelly press conference?
No.
I every time, and I'm not going to take the side of the media or reporters. But they won the game 20-10. And I watched, did you watch a lot of that Florida LSU game?
Yes.
Okay. How would you label the LSU offense?
Surprisingly bad.
Okay.
I'm surprised at how bad it is. Garrett Nussmeier's an excellent quarterback. Their receiving contingent is supposed to be one of the best in the nation.
Yeah. I mean,
receivers.
Yeah.
I can't really think back to how much pressure he was under, whether it was a passing game that was forced into mistakes based on a pass rush, because the one question that I had about LSU meeting all these expectations going into the season was that they were replacing 4 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But I had more trust that they would mount a rushing attack this year because they had really good running backs. And that's something that was completely non-existent with Jaden Daniels. And then even with Garrett Nussmeier, they were pass happy and didn't have a running game from the running backs.
Well, I mean, first of all, I kind of had some doubts, and I think I'd expressed them to you before about Nussmeier coming into the season and how highly he's rated. I know we talked about quarterbacks the last time we talked, but kind of looking at his game log last year, overviewing it, and then even watching a few of his big games, especially the Alabama debacle last year. There were some big games where he didn't even look good last year, and then he's getting a lot of people talking about him being one of the best quarterbacks coming into this year. So far, he's not looked good. And I have to echo what you said about the Florida game. Their offense looked awful. And to that point, what I'm talking about with Kelly in that press conference is, and I don't always take the media side. Mark, I know you're a member of the media, but most folks don't. But at the same time, he got asked like a legitimate question about his offense and their performance. And he just came across like Brian Kelly comes across like a complete jerk. You know what I mean? And the guy was like asking legitimate questions about their offensive production. And he kept on, oh, we won the game, didn't we? We won the game. And it was just, he just came across as a complete ass. I mean, pardon my Swahili, but it was not good. I mean, you can see why Notre Dame fans don't miss this guy at all, by the way, I have to say. If you get a chance, go back and watch it. It went over about as well as a fart in church, Mark. I got to say that,
Well, it must have started with his comments after the game to whomever the ESPN sideline reporter was, because he basically said the same thing. She said, great win, congratulations, or whatever. But then she jumped right into offensive performance. You only scored 10 offensive points. Really? Only scored 10 points. The yardage were X, Y, and Z. And he had pretty much the same response. We won the game. We win an SEC game, and people are picking on our offense. And he went into this tirade about when we used to win games with offense, then people complained. Now we're winning games on defense, and you win the game the way the game's presented to you. And that's the way I coached it. That's the way we played it. And we got the job done. All true to a certain extent, but the only time that, in my opinion, a coach has a legitimate defense for one of his units playing poorly and saying, you know what, it is what it is and it's done, is if you win a national championship game that way. If you win the national championship game 10-7, and there are questions in the post game about your offense sucked, you only had 100 yards of offense. Who cares? We're done. We won it. We got it done. It doesn't matter now. But otherwise, they're legitimate questions, obviously, because there is a season to be played. And anyone with a brain that watches college football or football in general knows that there are three aspects to the game. And to be a championship caliber team, you can't be bad at any of them. You can be decent at maybe one if you're great at the other, but you have to have a competent offense, especially in this day and age. So it's a legitimate line of questioning about, are you concerned about the offense? What's wrong with the offense? What are you going to do to address the offense? Those are all legitimate questions. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mark, it just came across really poorly. If you ever get a chance, I'm not saying that you would want to indulge yourself by watching it, but it's just, and I'm not always. Well, you did a whole tape on how I wasn't defending Ryan Day after November, but I'm going to defend my coach here. Ryan Day, after the Texas win, they win a 14-7 game. He was asked about his offense, and he was very good about explaining, listen, this is why we took the offensive game plan this way. We're starting a young quarterback. We're in a defensive struggle. I mean, just compare that, the way he was able to articulate why his offense looked the way it did to the way Brian Kelly answered questions on Saturday. And it was like,
well, there's a lot of things working here, I think. Number one, Brian Kelly knows that he is underachieved at LSU.
Yeah.
Number two, Brian Kelly knows that his offense is bad, and it shouldn't be bad and was not supposed to be bad. So he's probably not prepared for what he has been watching. Number three, Brian Kelly has always had an attitude issue. And number four, I think the older he gets and the more entitled he feels, he thinks that he's been coaching too long and won too many games to have to answer remedial questions from the media. He just believes that he's above that.
Yeah, well, yeah, he hasn't won enough to have the Bill Belichick attitude, Mark.
No, he's not won the right ones. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, the Bill Belichick attitude comes over really well. Although I was a Browns fan in the early 90s, he had that same attitude in Cleveland, and it did not go over well, by the way. But you're winning games, you're winning Super Bowls, then it becomes endearing, I guess. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this week. Just a couple things, observations. How interesting should Oklahoma and Auburn be?
I don't know that it's going to be an extremely entertaining game for people that like to see points on the board.
Right.
But I think it's one of those. It's one of those. I'm losing the cliche for it, but kind of the prove me game of, okay, the team that loses this game is going to be thrown to the back of the line of contenders to say, you're probably not legit.
Right.
That's going to be a perception. It's not going to be the facts of the logistics of how many games they have to win, but it's going to be you won one decent game, but you're really not that good. But for the winner, it's going to be, okay, we're going to keep you around. We're going to still consider you. And I think that Auburn, to me, they have more to prove to me that they're a good team than Oklahoma does. Because I thought Oklahoma's win, although it wasn't a thing of beauty against Michigan, it was a physically dominant performance in a complete win where you had the quarterback play was all that you would want it to be under those circumstances, and that the line play on both sides of the ball were dominant against a team that's supposed to be extremely physical and carries that identity. And so it was a very just dominant win. I'll go shy of dominant. They controlled the game. Point. Where Auburn's win against Baylor was more, I think anytime you beat a Big 12 team or an ACC team that's not one of two or three teams, it doesn't carry the weight. And also they gave up 400 plus yards through the air.
I still think, by the way, in your preseason, did you have Oklahoma as a playoff team, Mark?
Yes.
Oh, okay. See, I think with the landmines on their schedule that are coming up, I think this is one that they can't afford to lose. Yes. Is that a fair way to put it? Is that I think that if you were, I know you didn't pick their schedule like game by game by game, You just put out a final record prediction. But to that point, I think with the landmines that are coming up on that schedule in the SEC, it's just one they cannot afford
I
to
had
lose.
Oklahoma, if I remember correctly. Yes, I had them losing to Michigan and losing 2 out of 3 to LSU, Alabama, and Texas. That's what I came out with, 9-3.
Yeah, that Alabama game should be more interesting. The more and more I think about it. Texas, I think Red River is going to be really interesting this year. Boy, that could be a game where you have 2 quarterbacks. Who would have ever thought that could be a game where Mateer's coming into playing at a higher level than Arch will be? Although it'll be interesting to see where both quarterbacks look like going into that game.
Yeah, everyone was checking the box on the Texas side in the offseason,
right?
Looking at wins and losses, but I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, I will say this. I think if Oklahoma, I was talking about this with Matt, that if Oklahoma gets a little bit from the tailback and they don't have to run Mateer as much, they would be a real interesting team because I think their skill on the outside isn't bad. I think they're solid, trench play, and I like Mateer at quarterback. If they don't have to run him as much and they can get a little bit out of the tailback, they'd be a real
they have 3
interesting
tailbacks
team
that are supposed to be good. They've got Javonte Barnes, who's been around there for a long time, who's gained nearly 1,000 yards in a season. They, of course, picked up Jaden Ott, who was the 1,300-yard rusher with Cal 2 years ago. And the name of the other kid is escaping me, who was pushing a 5-star level. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be big for them going forward. Last thought on, by the way, Florida, Miami. Is this upset alert, or is this a game where you expect Miami to win fairly handily?
Taylor Tatum is the name I was trying to come up with. Taylor Tatum, who almost signed with Alabama, but signed at Oklahoma. He was a 5-star running back that they expected much out of.
Oh, their third running back. Okay.
What are you asking me about?
No, I was just thoughts on Florida, Miami. Is that an upset alert, or do you expect Miami to take it to them?
So we had a really good breakdown with our buddy David Waters from Gauge Breakdown today that just posted on the Florida channel, and I wanted him to tell me, where does Florida have an advantage in this game? Because I don't have deep knowledge of Florida, but I did watch them play LSU, and I did watch almost the entire game against South Florida, so I'm getting familiar. And I watched Miami play the Notre Dame game for sure, and I kind of checked in on South Alabama or South Florida, so I know these teams pretty well. And I don't see where Florida has a go-to like, oh, you have this. You have an offensive line that's going to push them down the field, or you have what we saw Alabama, Wisconsin. Like, you have receivers that are just going to abuse their secondary. I don't see any Florida. Of course, they've got athletes and they've got SEC athletes, and it's not a mismatch athletically, but just the way Miami's playing and the confidence I have in their position groups versus Florida is pretty substantial.
Yeah, I think that, unless Chris Ball really screws this up, which he's been known to do in the past. And by the way, Miami, like I told you the other night, we were having this conversation. I hate to say it, but I think they're a team that's trending in the right direction and has maybe 2 of the key elements that I always look for on every team. They have a really good D-line, and they might have the right quarterback. Carson Beck may have turned around his college career here, and taking a trip to the ACC is always a good thing for some college quarterbacks, I guess. See Kyle McCord.
There you go.
Well, interesting conversation. Oh, by the way, if he gets, is Waters confident that Billy makes it through this season, or no. he's already out on Napier?
He says that he would not be surprised if they are getting run out of the stadium, that they pull him at the end of that game.
Jeez. Man, I knew I shouldn't have taken that prop bet at 6.5 wins to start the season.
And then he also said, if that doesn't happen, because I said, because he said, this is a huge game for Florida, and this is going to buy Billy Napier a lot of time. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I understand that. It's a huge game for a lot of reasons, but just looking at a record in and of itself, even if they win this game, they're 2-2,
Yeah.
and they're facing Texas and Texas A&M the next two games. Like, they have to have another remarkable turnaround against that schedule. And David said, yeah, be watching the bye weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Georgia down the road, that's not going to be pretty. Yeah, they've got more than a few landmines coming down the pike.
They do.
All right, good stuff. Have a good.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we'll be back on Friday. Rutgers, Iowa. Let's do like 30 seconds because we're off into overtime.
I just wanted to make sure I got this right. This last caller, he was talking about Florida, as in the Florida Gators, not the UCF Knights or the USF Bulls, correct?
He was.
Okay, I'm just making. Has he watched a Florida game? Has he seen Florida over the last 4 years?
I believe so.
Okay, well, everybody in America, except for David, apparently, believes Billy Napier should be fired. His own fans at the stadium of the last game against USF was chanting for Billy Napier to be fired. Yes. He's done. This idea that somehow if he goes 7-5, 6-6, it's going to be all perfect for Florida, no. They're a terrible football team, Mark. They're going to probably get blasted by 20-some points in the majority of the games they've got left. I wouldn't be surprised if this team just flatly quits, rolls over, and dies halfway through the season.
But the same thing was being said at this exact stage of the season last year. Exactly. They looked horrible against Miami. They got trucked by 24 points. They got steamrolled by Texas A&M. There were fire Billy chants in the stadium as he was walking off the field against Texas A&M at 1-2. I think the same record he has right now. And they turned it around and they finished 8-5. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that what you're playing out is not going to happen. I'm saying that we all thought it was going to happen last year and it did not.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, last year was, at least they beat the cupcake teams. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat. Like, they beat Central Florida. They beat Samford, Mississippi State. Those, level bottom tier teams. They lost to the Bulls, Mark, of South Florida. This is the worst loss he's taken probably within the last 2 or 3 years. Like, this isn't a case of a really difficult schedule, being beaten up, and then you happen to lose a game you shouldn't. This is your beginning of the season with your star quarterback, and you all say, and also your star quarterback is terrible. He's just not good.
I got you.
Like, he's horrendous.
I got you, sir.
Okay, I'm just making sure everybody. I didn't know people were still buying Florida stock, Mark. I mean, it must be like a penny stock that people are buying nowadays because they're horrendous. It's one of the, as a Kentucky fan, I'm circling that game because that's the only game I think we'll probably have a chance to win in the SEC this year. That's how bad they are.
All right, DeReal, thanks for stopping by. Penny stocks, by the way, I bought one the other day for $1.76. I sold it in 15 minutes at $1.90. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but what are we talking about? We're talking about like 8%. Yeah. All right. 30 seconds, sir. What do you got? Who are we looking at here? We got Wayland here. I don't hear anything.
I heard you a couple of weeks ago. You asked
there
me
we
to
go.
call in. I had myself on mute. I'm sorry. That's
fine.
Story there. How you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm doing great. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, man, I hate to be late. I was over with Jeffrey and Jackson on their show. I thought I'd pop in. I give you a hello. It's a great show. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
I enjoy all the shows. Enjoy listening to all of them. But I think I'm being punished, though, by Caden. Can I get some help somewhere? Is there something we can do?
You are getting punished by Caden. Well, first of all, I feel for you. Secondly, Caden has no room to be punishing anyone for anything. So I can only imagine what that's all about.
Oh, no, he's all right. Okay. He's a good boy. He loves the shows, man. That's what it's all about. But I know you want to get off here. I'll catch you a little bit earlier when you tomorrow night, good Lord's willing, or next week I'll give you a call in and we'll discuss some stuff when you got some more time. Man.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate that, sir. You have a good
All right,
night.
you too.
So yeah, we're here 10 p.m. Eastern time or after the game. So for example, I'm going to watch Iowa and Rutgers. I'm going to watch that game. So as soon as it hits double zeros, I will be here. Unless it's a blowout, then we'll show, if this game's 30-6 in this to start the fourth quarter, we're going to show up and there's no reason to sit through the rest of that. With those two teams, though, I would not count on it. I would count on 20-17 kind of grind. So that's what we will look forward to. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We'll be back on Friday night after the ball games, and we appreciate your support. Please hit the like button on the way out. Please subscribe. Do all those good things. Get us to 100,000 subs. We would love to do that by the end of this season, and we will see you on Friday night.